Jace Granville pressed his forehead against the cool locker door and exhaled in a long, shaky breath. The school hallway buzzed with the usual midday chaos. Half of the students rushing to their next classes, the other half lingering around in clusters to gossip. Somewhere among the throng, he could hear the distinct laughter of Mariana Huntsworth, head cheerleader, top of the senior class, and daughter of one of the wealthiest men in town. She never let anyone forget it. Jace's friend Janelle sidled up to him. Hiding from her again? Janelle teased, flipping her long, dark hair over her shoulder. He rolled his eyes. Mariana, he corrected himself, is going to be the death of me, or at least the death of my GPA. Come on, Janelle said. You're the highest-scoring junior. She's the highest-scoring senior. You should be proud of where you stand. He sighed, I guess. But any time a teacher praises me, Mariana swoops in to show off or hint that I'll never be as good as her. Janelle adjusted the thick folder of notes she carried and shot Jace a sympathetic look. At 5'7", with a slight build and a meticulously neat appearance, Jace cut a distinctly unassuming figure. He had short, glossy brown hair, green eyes, and a quiet confidence that never manifested as arrogance. Yet, he was well aware of how power and money shaped the world. Mariana Huntsworth, tall, gorgeous, and with a fortune behind her, always seemed to get her way. More often than not, she walked all over people, teachers included. Just ignore her, suggested Janelle. She isn't worth your stress. Easier said than done, Jace thought, especially when Mariana wanted the entire school to revolve around her. He slung his backpack over his shoulder and trudged off to his next class. The day ended in a blur of quizzes and pep rally announcements. By the final bell, Jace found himself rushing to meet his group of friends in the courtyard: Janelle, Kara, Shane, and Mark. The five of them had more or less formed a tight unit. They liked to study at the library together or hang out at an old cafe across the street from campus. How many times, Jace began as he collapsed onto one of the benches, do I have to hear Mariana brag about a new designer jacket or how she aced another test by studying less than an hour? Kara snorted in sympathy. She made a show in the cafeteria about her father's upcoming summer party. The entire cheer squad is invited. She bragged that it's exclusive and she'll only let certain people in. She can do that? Janelle asked, exasperated. Shane ruffled his own hair, frustration written on his features. You know how it is. If you're not one of her chosen few, you're out. Mark nudged Jace's shoulder. You're the top junior. Don't you want to dethrone her academically or something? You're basically the only one with the grades to threaten her #1 spot. Jace shrugged. I'd love to. But dethroning her academically is one thing. Mariana's got the entire world at her feet. She's also head cheerleader, she's got wealth, and teachers seem intimidated by her father's influence. I'm just me, a scholarship kid with good marks. Janelle, who'd been rummaging through her bag for something, lifted her head. I wish we had a way to push her off that pedestal for once. She's so entitled. They were so engrossed in their conversation they barely noticed Miss Bramble, one of the English teachers, passing by. She offered them a curious, knowing smile and went on her way without a word. A few days later, word reached Jace that Miss Bramble wanted to speak with him, Janelle, Kara, Shane, and Mark in a private office. They exchanged worried glances, suspecting they might be in trouble. But when they entered the small, sunlit room, Miss Bramble simply invited them to sit and shut the door. I've overheard some of your talk about Mariana Huntsworth, Miss Bramble said gently, leaning against the front of her desk, and I know you want to put her in her place. Jace stiffened. We don't want to do anything wrong. She held up a hand. Relax. I'm not here to scold you. I'm here to point out a truth. Mariana's father contributed a lot of money to this school new equipment, building renovations, that kind of thing. So yes, many people are afraid to cross the Huntsworth family, but I also know Mariana earned her high scores. That's her own achievement. She's naturally intelligent, which makes her unstoppable because she's also a cheerleader, a social queen, and quite proud of it. Miss Bramble paused, letting her words sink in. However, there is one potential approach if someone's truly determined to compete with Mariana on her own turf. You'd need a top-performing student, someone academically on par with her who also could join the cheer squad. And if that student happened to be a girl, then the competition could be direct in every single aspect. Janelle and Kara nearly beamed with realization. Mark and Shane smirked. They all turned to stare at Jace, who blinked in confusion. Miss Bramble gave a small shrug. It would have to be a girl who's just as smart, physically capable of cheering, and brand new to the role. No such girl is currently at our school. We don't have someone who's a senior next year with that kind of GPA and athletic promise. So if one of you fine gentlemen wanted to transform over the summer and enroll as a senior, that might be an idea. Her expression was sly, but there was no mistaking her seriousness. For a moment, the room was utterly silent. Then Janelle and Kara both turned to Jace, eyes shining with mischief. Absolutely not. Jace sputtered. Why me? No. Janelle gripped his arm. Because you're the only person who consistently ranks near Mariana, at least in terms of academics. Our other top scorers are all juniors like you, or they don't have the skill set to pull off cheerleading. He tried to laugh it off, but he saw that even Mark and Shane, though they were obviously startled, weren't dismissing the idea. Shane scratched his chin, remembering how Mariana once trashed his projects out of sheer spite. Mark fidgeted, apparently recalling a time she humiliated him in front of the entire cafeteria. Kara leaned forward. Jace, you're bright and determined. You could do this. You could become a star cheerleader, outscore her, and dethrone her. You just need to do it in a different guise. Jace cleared his throat. But it's nuts. My life would be turned upside down. Miss Bramble patted Jace's shoulder. Sometimes, bright young people like you can handle more than you think. Your friend group can keep this secret. Think about it. If you want to do it, you'll have to start this summer. By the time next year starts, you'd be stepping into a new identity as a senior, with a fresh name. He swallowed around the knot forming in his throat. Everyone in the room was gazing at him expectantly, as though the matter were practically settled. I don't know. But the seed was planted, and Jace felt the excitement and dread twisting in his stomach. When the meeting ended, Miss Bramble sent them off with a gracious smile, wishing them luck with whatever path they chose. Despite his confusion, Jace tried to bury the idea under his usual end-of-year responsibilities. Classes were wrapping up, final projects were coming due, and the bustle of the upcoming summer break filled the corridors. On the very last day of school, as the others parted ways, Janelle walked home with Jace for their usual 4-block route. I'll see you later, she said. I'm going to come by, okay? He shrugged. Sure, I'll be around. He had barely set foot in his house before he spotted his mother, Miss Naomi Granville, in the living room with two of his teachers, Miss Bramble and Miss Rothburn. The second he saw them, he had a sinking feeling that the rumor of this insane plan had reached his mother's ears. Jace, come here, Miss Granville said. Her normally gentle face was taut with tension and something else he couldn't decipher. Your teachers told me about this possibility that you might enroll as a girl next year. To challenge Mariana Huntsworth in everything from grades to cheerleading. Is that true? Jace felt his cheeks heat with embarrassment. I didn't really agree to it, Mom. It was just an idea. Miss Granville exchanged a glance with Miss Bramble. Something unsaid passed between them, and she sighed. I told them that if you want to do it, I'd support you. After all, your father worked at Mr. Huntsworth's factory for years, and the man never even acknowledged us when your father died on the job. Maybe it's petty, but I'd love to see his daughter knocked off her high horse. If you're willing, Jace, I'll help in every way I can. But it's not only about revenge, Ms. Rothburn interjected gently. We also want Mariana's sense of entitlement curbed. She's too used to stepping on everyone. Miss Bramble reached into her bag and retrieved an envelope. Some of the teachers and staff pitched in. We gathered $3,000 for you. We know you'd need clothing, shoes, maybe even specialized makeup or hairstyling. If you do this, you shouldn't have to bear all the expenses alone." Jace stared at the envelope, his thoughts whirling. Money wouldn't be the biggest obstacle. The real challenge was whether he had the courage to transform himself into a girl and face an entire year of deception. He opened his mouth, but couldn't form coherent words. Miss Granville thanked the teachers, who left soon after, quietly shutting the door behind them. She turned back to Jace with an expression he couldn't quite decipher. "I want you to realize that I'm not forcing you, but I do think you'd be very good at it, and I believe you might surprise even yourself." He must have looked so overwhelmed that she beckoned him close and gave him a hug. "We'll figure it out as we go, sweetheart." A knock on the door announced Janelle and Kara, carrying small shopping bags and wearing determined looks on their faces. And just like that, Jace felt the sand shifting under his feet. His mother led them all upstairs to his bedroom and closed the door. Before he knew it, Janelle and Kara were laying out unfamiliar garments on his bed, soft fabrics, pastel colors, lacy edges. "Wait," he exclaimed, holding up a hand. "What if this is all a disaster? What if I turn out to look ridiculous?" Janelle stood, hands on her hips. "We have all summer to do this, Jace. Let's just see how you look the first time, okay? We'll do a full makeover. If it looks like a train wreck, we'll stop." Kara smiled, rummaging around for hair supplies and curling irons. "You trust us, right?" He did trust them, he realized. And he trusted his mother, who sat at the edge of the bed, nodding encouragingly. Still, every muscle in his body screamed that this was insane. Yet some part of him, the part that had always disliked Mariana's cruelty, found a flicker of excitement. With trembling hands, Jace removed his clothes. His mother helped him apply a hair removal cream over his arms and legs. He waited the prescribed time, then showered off, watching his body hair slide away, swirling down the drain. When he stepped out, he felt newly vulnerable, not only in body but in spirit. Everything about his reflection in the bathroom mirror looked eerily feminine already: smooth skin, slim limbs. Wrapped in a robe, he returned to his bedroom, where his mother measured him and then handed him a set of pastel undergarments, delicate panties, and a bra. After fidgeting into them, he slipped on some pantyhose that clung to his shaven legs like a second skin. Next came a slip and then a short, pleated dress in a soft green. He felt simultaneously exposed and curious. One glance in the mirror showed a figure that was still obviously male in the face, but something was shifting. "Let's move into my room," Miss Granville said. "Janelle, do you want to do the hair while Kara does the makeup?" "Yes, ma'am," they chorused, trying to keep the mood light. Jace settled into the chair in front of his mother's vanity. Janelle stepped up behind him. She began by trimming and styling his hair in short, careful snips, followed by narrow hot rollers. The swirl of hair gradually took on a soft wave, tumbling around his cheeks. At the same time, Kara went to work on his face. She brushed a warm foundation over his skin, then used powder to set it, layering blush on his cheekbones. She used earth-tone shadows to enhance his eyes, adding a brown liner that subtly reshaped them. A twist of mascara gave his lashes a fluttery effect. With a surprising flourish, Kara finished by handing Jace a satin rose lipstick. Tremulously, he applied it to lips that were already parted in apprehension. Then they removed the rollers and gently brushed out his new waves. Suddenly, the reflection in the mirror was that of a girl, delicate-faced, wide-eyed, with a shy, inquisitive expression. Jace couldn't tear his gaze away. "My goodness," Miss Granville breathed, "you're stunning." Jace swallowed hard, uncertain what to feel. He had expected to look clownish or forced. Instead, the transformation was shockingly effective. Even more alarming was the flicker of pride he felt. Was it possible that he liked seeing himself this way? Sensing his uncertainty, Janelle placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "We need a name," she said, "something that suits you. Originally, your mom was going to name you Harriet if you had been born a girl. But Harriet is a little old-fashioned." Miss Granville nodded. And we want something that captures your spirit. Jace looked back in the mirror. The image that stared back had wide green eyes and softly styled hair. What name belonged to her? He conjured a few possibilities in his head: Kara, Carly, Carol, but quickly decided on a variation that felt right. How about Karina? Karina Michelle Granville. Kara beamed. Karina, that's lovely. Karina Michelle, Janelle repeated with a nod. It fits you perfectly. Miss Granville clapped her hands together. Karina it is then. Karina stared at her reflection. The borrowed clothes, the sleek pantyhose, the gentle swell of her bra cups, even if stuffed with socks, all created the image of an actual girl. Jace inside felt both thrill and trepidation. He was stepping into a brand new identity. After a moment, he felt a rush of determination. If he was going to do this, he wanted to do it well. He wanted to beat Mariana Huntsworth at her own game. Let's see what happens next, he murmured. Already, he could tell there was no turning back. Karina, formerly Jace, began her very first official outing as a girl that same afternoon. Janelle insisted on introducing Karina to her own mother and then taking her to the local burger spot. Heart pounding, Karina tried to refuse, but she was overruled in a flash of excited laughter. The reasoning was simple. Eventually, she would need to leave the house, and it might as well be sooner rather than later. So, an hour later, Karina found herself walking side by side with Janelle down their quiet suburban street. Every step was surreal. She had to remember to take shorter strides. The swish of the skirt around her thighs was exhilarating and strange. The mild summer breeze brushed her smooth legs. She clutched a small red purse that her mother had given her, lips still painted in that soft rose hue. Try not to look so terrified, Janelle teased gently, hooking an arm through hers. You're fine. You look completely natural. I feel like I'm practically on stage, Karina whispered. The entire world is looking at me. Janelle tossed her hair. You'll get used to it. When they reached Janelle's house, Karina braced herself. Janelle's mother had known Jace all his life. Would she take one look and call the charade out? Instead, when they entered the living room, Janelle's mom greeted Karina like a newcomer, polite, friendly, and wholly accepting. Mom, this is Karina, a friend staying with the Granville family, Janelle said, winking at Karina behind her mother's back. Karina, this is my mom, Mrs. Potter. Mrs. Potter smiled and took Karina's hand. Hello, dear. It's lovely to meet you. Then, leaning closer, she lowered her voice conspiratorially. Janelle told me a bit about your circumstances. Don't worry, you look beautiful. Honestly, I'd never suspect you were anything but a girl. Karina blushed. Thank you, she whispered. After a quick chat, Janelle whisked Karina off to her bedroom. The difference between Jace's old space and Janelle's pastel haven was stark. While Jace's was all neatly stacked textbooks and minimal decor, Janelle's was a swirl of pink bedding, plush cushions, fairy lights, and a vanity overflowing with perfumes, lotions, and cosmetics. Ready for the next step? Janelle asked, eyes glimmering mischievously. Karina gave a half laugh. You mean more clothes? Exactly. I've got a closet full of outfits that don't fit me well anymore. Either they're too small in the waist or too short in the sleeves. You're tinier than me, so maybe they'll be perfect for you. Karina's stomach fluttered as Janelle pulled a half-dozen ensembles from the depths of her closet. Skirts, dresses, jeans, tops with glittery logos, even leggings and yoga pants. Karina tried them on one by one, pivoting awkwardly in front of the mirror while Janelle offered suggestions. That pink sweater with the denim skirt is an absolute yes, Janelle decided at one point. Try these wedge sandals too. Slipping on wedge sandals with a slight heel felt odd to Karina. She tried to walk, misstepped, and nearly toppled face first into the mirror. They both burst into giggles. You'll get the hang of it, Janelle assured her. Just practice at home, maybe on a carpet, so if you fall it won't hurt as much. Karina felt her cheeks burn, but the easy camaraderie with Janelle soothed her nerves. She realized with astonishment that, In a way, she was enjoying herself. Despite all the strangeness, there was an unexpected thrill in discovering this new side of herself. By late afternoon, Karina was halfway convinced to go out for burgers with Janelle and Kara. She changed back into the green dress, the one that matched her brand new persona. Janelle helped reapply Karina's makeup, just a bit more polish, and they added a spritz of light floral perfume. The soft sense of transformation left her head spinning, but strangely elated. They arrived at the Burger Bin, an old-fashioned diner with a bright neon sign in front. The interior was bustling with teens from school. Karina's heart hammered in her chest as they entered, all eyes seeming to flick their way for a brief second. Yet no one looked horrified or burst out pointing, "That's a boy in a dress." People just glanced, recognized Janelle, and sized up Karina as a new friend. Kara was already at a table by the big front window. "Hey gals," she said, standing to greet them. Kara had pinned up her curly hair in a high ponytail that bobbed as she moved. "Karina, you look like you stepped straight out of a magazine." Karina gave a shaky laugh. "I'm trying." Janelle ordered them a round of sodas and fries. Within minutes, Mark and Shane arrived. They'd brought another friend along, Peter, Kara's boyfriend. Mark and Shane knew exactly who Karina really was but tried their best to keep a neutral expression. Meanwhile, Peter, who had never met Jace before, stared in unabashed admiration. Shane elbowed Mark and discreetly tilted his head at Karina, a silent gesture that said, "Wow, she's really pulling this off." Mark offered Karina a supportive grin, sliding into the booth beside her. Karina's nerves flickered. If Mark was actually comfortable enough to be seen with her like this, maybe it was working. Peter launched straight into friendly banter. "Karina, right? Did you just move here?" She nodded, letting Janelle chime in with a prearranged lie. "She's staying with the Granvilles, while her parents are overseas. A new senior next year." "Awesome," Peter said. "Welcome, you'll love our school." Karina fought the urge to laugh hysterically at the irony of that statement, but she just smiled politely. The conversation meandered from summer plans to the upcoming dances. She half expected someone to spot her carefully disguised identity, but no one did. It both relieved and unnerved her. Suddenly, Peter lit up. "There's a summer dance tomorrow night, right? Let's all go as a group." Kara latched onto the idea, turning to Janelle. "Yes, that'd be so much fun. Janelle, you come with Shane. I'll go with Peter. Mark, why don't you take Karina?" Mark hesitated, a faint blush crossing his cheeks, but he nodded with a grin. "Sure, if Karina's up for it." Karina's mouth felt suddenly dry. Mark, who had been an ally but not much of a romantic presence in Jace's life, was now sitting only inches away from her. If she said yes, that meant stepping deeper into the role of Karina. Then again, wasn't that the whole point? She was expected to integrate as a new girl in every sense. "Okay," she said softly, her cheeks warming. "I'd like that." She could see the relief in Mark's eyes. He turned to wink at Shane, who gave him a subtle thumbs up behind Peter's head. When the group finished their meal and parted ways, Karina realized she had somehow committed to a date with a boy, her friend, and she hadn't even batted an eyelash about it. Her stomach twisted with a strange excitement. This was all so new. She couldn't even begin to comprehend what tomorrow night might bring. Back home, Miss Granville was quick to ask Karina how the outing went. The second she saw Karina's face, she knew the answer was complicated. Karina set down her purse. "Mom, Mark asked me to the dance. Actually, the group just arranged it. I said yes. Is that okay?" Miss Granville tilted her head, searching Karina's expression. "You're worried, I can see. But as far as I'm concerned, you're free to date whomever you like. If you want to go as Karina, then go. It's part of the experience." Karina let out a breath. "I know. And it's not that I don't want to go. It's just unexpected." With a tender smile, Miss Granville came over and gave her a kiss on the forehead. "You've had a big day. Why don't we get you out of that dress and into something comfortable? Then tomorrow, We'll find something truly fabulous for the dance." Karina nodded, following her mother up the stairs. In the privacy of her new bedroom, which used to belong to her older sister Harriet, she peeled off the dress and set it carefully on a hanger. Harriet's old room was decidedly feminine, with a white vanity, a pink floral bedspread, and a big closet still filled with Harriet's leftover clothes. Miss Granville had already suggested Karina officially move in here, and she'd hesitantly agreed, realizing she'd need the space. She gazed at the mirror, noticing how easily she was now referring to herself as Karina in her head. Jace Granville was already slipping behind that reflection. The small pang of nostalgia for who she'd been was overshadowed by a potent thrill for who she might become. Could she truly outshine Mariana Huntsworth, the girl who had everything? Tomorrow night's dance would be her trial by fire. If she could successfully pass as a girl among her peers for an entire evening, then maybe this crazy plan stood a chance. Let Mariana think she ruled the school. Karina planned to show her otherwise. The next day dawned bright and humid, typical of early summer. Karina woke in Harriet's old bed, disoriented for a moment by the soft pink decor. Then the events of the past day came rushing back. She had a date with Mark to the summer dance. Every nerve tingled at the reminder. Downstairs, Miss Granville had already prepared breakfast. Over toast and scrambled eggs, she and Karina discussed the day's plans. They needed a dress for the dance. Harriet's closet might hold an appropriate outfit, but Miss Granville suspected they could do better with a new purchase. The goal wasn't just to fit in. The goal was to shine, to show everyone Karina was on the same level as the most popular girls at school, especially Mariana. "Come on," Miss Granville said, draining the last of her coffee. "Let's head to the mall." Karina shot her an anxious look. Going to the mall as a girl was a giant leap forward. She had only ventured out once, and that was in the relative safety of a small burger joint. The mall would be crawling with classmates, teachers, neighbors, anyone could spot them. Reading her mind, Miss Granville placed a reassuring hand on Karina's. "This is part of it, sweetie. We can't hide you away. Besides, if this is going to be your life for the next year, you need a full wardrobe." Karina blew out a tense breath and nodded. A short while later, she found herself in a comfortable sundress, wedge sandals, and light daytime makeup, holding her mother's hand as they navigated the shiny corridors of the local shopping mall. Miss Granville led Karina to several trendy boutiques. The first few minutes in each store felt like stepping onto a stage with 1,000 watchers, but the sales associates barely batted an eyelash. As Karina sifted through racks of dresses, she began to relax, letting herself enjoy the swirl of colors and fabrics. Her mother piled her arms with items to try on: cocktail dresses, summery skirts, satin blouses, lace-topped camisoles, and the occasional pair of elegant trousers. Karina lost track of how many times she changed in the dressing room, examining her reflection from every angle. The changes in her body were subtle but enough that, with some fitted garments, she looked convincingly feminine. In baggier clothes, she might still pass as a slight-framed boy, but that wasn't their objective today. Eventually, they struck gold, a sophisticated, knee-length, pale blue dress made of a flowy chiffon material. It had a delicate lace overlay around the bodice and subtle sparkles at the waist. When Karina tried it on, her mother's eyes lit up. "That's it," Miss Granville said in a hushed voice. "It's perfect for a summer dance." Karina gazed at herself in the mirror. The color accented her green eyes, and the cut gave her a gentle hourglass silhouette, helped by the discreet waist cincher her mother had convinced her to wear underneath. She twirled, and the skirt flared out in a playful circle around her thighs. All at once, she knew, this was the dress she would wear tonight. They also picked out shoes, a pair of strappy silver heels that made Karina wobble at first and a matching clutch. Then they visited a lingerie store where Miss Granville insisted on properly fitting Karina for bras and panties rather than relying on borrowed or second-hand pieces. That was an eye-opening experience in itself, as Karina let a professional measure her chest and help her find comfortable padding options that wouldn't look obvious. By the time they were finished, Karina felt as if she crossed an invisible bridge. There was no turning back. She had an entire closet's worth of female apparel, everything from everyday jeans to glamorous gowns. The hush in her mind was replaced by a low hum of adrenaline. Their last stop was a stylish salon on the far side of the mall. At Miss Granville's direction, the beauticians shaped Karina's eyebrows, dyed her hair a warm auburn shade, gave her nails a glossy, muted pink polish, and even taught her the finer points of makeup contouring. Sitting there, wrapped in a protective cape, Karina felt her old identity slip further away with each brush stroke and hair snip. She left the salon feeling lighter, more confident, and undeniably feminine. The mirror now showed a girl with gently arched brows, shining hair that framed her face in soft waves, and nails that sparkled under the salon lights. "This is so strange," Karina said softly as they walked to the car, arms laden with shopping bags. "It's almost like I've discovered a side of me that was always there, waiting for a chance to come out." Miss Granville gave her an understanding smile. "I think you're brave to do this. And yes, you might be discovering something about yourself that you never knew. Sometimes it takes extraordinary circumstances to reveal who we really are." Karina nodded, mind whirling. She hadn't expected to feel anything but nervousness. Yet, beneath the anxiety was a flicker of genuine happiness. Tonight, she'd be stepping onto the dance floor as Karina, and she wanted to be dazzling. When they arrived back home, Karina spent the late afternoon unpacking her new clothes and then carefully styling her hair and makeup for the big event. Miss Granville helped lace her into a moderate waist cincher beneath the pale blue dress, giving her an elegant silhouette. Karina stepped into the strappy heels, discovering that the key was to walk slowly, placing the ball of her foot down before the heel. At 7 o'clock sharp, Mark arrived in a borrowed sedan from his older brother. He wore a neat jacket and tie, looking simultaneously excited and nervous. Miss Granville invited him in while Karina descended the stairs, now in full transformation. Mark's breath caught in his throat. "Karina, you look incredible." She felt a warm flush creep up her cheeks. "Thank you," she murmured, adjusting the strap of the clutch bag. Her mother snapped a few pictures with a proud, teary-eyed smile. Then Mark escorted Karina outside, opening the car door for her like a perfect gentleman. In the passenger seat, Karina let out a held breath. "I'm sorry if I seem tense. It's just my first." Mark placed his hand lightly on hers. "Don't worry about it. Everyone's going to love you." She smiled gratefully, hearts pounding in her ears. Was it possible that Mark was starting to see her as more than just Jace in a dress? A confusing swirl of emotion told her that he might be. They met the rest of the group: Janelle, Cara, Shane, and Peter at the school gymnasium, which had been decorated with colorful streamers and twinkle lights. The air was filled with the excited chatter of 100 students, all anticipating summer. Karina braced herself. This was her first major public test as a girl. Mark took her hand, lacing their fingers together. Together, they stepped into the gym. Almost immediately, people turned to see the new face. Several recognized Mark, but Karina was a mystery. She heard whispers. "Who's that girl with Mark? She's gorgeous. Is she new here?" Karina's heart soared with mingled fear and pride. No one pointed or laughed. She glided through the crowd on Mark's arm, occasionally trembling with nerves, but never showing it on her face. Janelle gave Karina a bright smile, leaning in to whisper, "You're amazing. Keep it up." Cara winked. "I think a few guys already have crushes on you." The dance itself was a swirl of motion and color. Karina discovered quickly that dancing in heels required a different sense of balance. Mark supported her, guiding her gently through the faster songs. When a slower number came on, he pulled her into his arms, resting his hand at the small of her back. Karina laid her head on his shoulder, inhaling the faint scent of his cologne. It felt unexpectedly intimate. Their movements slowed along with the music, swaying in that circle of soft lights. She was aware of the warmth of his body, the surety in his grip. The rest of the room melted away. For a split second, she recalled their many library study sessions when they were just two friends discussing chemistry or writing notes in one another's margins. Now, that comfortable camaraderie had blossomed into something else, a gentle, blossoming attraction. The realization both excited and worried her. After all, Karina was still, in some sense, Jace. Would Mark see her that way if he found out the full truth? She tried to push such thoughts aside. Tonight, she was Karina. She was a girl in a shimmering blue dress, dancing in her new silver heels, feeling a flutter of contentment. When the dance ended, Mark escorted Karina back to his car. It was almost midnight, the air cool on her bare arms as she slid into the passenger seat. They decided to stop by a late-night cafe for a quick bite. Over milkshakes, Mark reached over and tucked a stray curl behind her ear. "I never thought," he began, and then cleared his throat. "I never thought I'd meet someone who I'd feel this way about." Karina's stomach flip-flopped. "Mark." He paused, clearly searching for words. "I know you're new," he said, swallowing, "but I'd like to get to know you better. Would you maybe be okay if I call you tomorrow?" She tried not to melt into a puddle on the vinyl booth seat. Instead, she mustered a small smile. "Yes," she managed, "I'd like that." They parted with a shy goodnight, Mark kissing the back of Karina's hand. She was lightheaded by the time she walked up a driveway, every cell vibrating with a mix of joy and confusion. Did Mark truly see her as the girl she was pretending to be? And if so, how would he handle the truth that lay behind Karina's creation? Ms. Granville waited up, reading in the living room. Karina recounted the evening, cheeks flushed with excitement. "No one seemed suspicious. Everyone just assumed I was a new student. Even the teachers who chaperoned the dance just welcomed me without question." Her mother looked pleased. "That's wonderful. I'm proud of you, honey." But after Miss Granville went to bed, Karina lay awake for hours, staring at the shadows on the ceiling. She was stepping into unfamiliar territory. Could she truly juggle this newfound confidence and the potential for heartbreak, all while taking on Mariana Huntsworth? Yet a determined spark lit inside Karina's chest. She would see it through, for better or worse. Summer swept in like a warm embrace. Karina spent the first few weeks dividing her time between learning the arts of makeup and styling thanks to Janelle and Kara, and steadily practicing her cheerleading moves. With Miss Bramble's behind-the-scenes connections, Karina gained access to private coaching sessions in tumbling and stunts at a local gymnastics center. It was rigorous, physically demanding work, but Karina's lithe build and determination paid off. She still had to focus on maintaining her feminine grace, but each day she grew more confident in skirts, bras, and even wedge heels. The more Karina immersed herself in this new reality, the further Jace seemed to fade. Miss Granville had quietly begun referring to Karina as she all the time. Around the house, Karina's chores were the same, but her environment had changed. Her sister Harriet's old bedroom was steadily becoming Karina's room. The closet was full of dresses and slim-fit jeans, and the vanity was crowned with Karina's growing collection of lipsticks, foundations, and perfumes. Mark called often, sometimes dropping by to take her for ice cream or to a park. Their budding romance made Karina's heart flutter, even as the logical part of her brain warned that it was impossible in the long run. The tricky part was how natural it felt. Mark didn't treat her like a guy in a dress, he treated her like a girl he was genuinely smitten with. They'd walk together, hands entwined, exchanging shy, affectionate smiles. And as for Janelle, Kara, and the rest of the gang, they were fully on board. Shane went so far as to insist Karina meet him and Mark for video games, just to keep the friendship normal. Only now Karina would sit on the couch in skinny jeans and a flowy blouse, crossing her legs at the ankle as the guys teased each other. The new dynamic was oddly comfortable. Karina found herself switching easily between girl talk with Janelle and Kara and old hangouts with Shane and Mark. The only difference was that Mark's hand would occasionally drift onto Karina's knee when no one was looking, sending a pleasant thrill through her. One evening, after a particularly exhausting cheer practice, Karina collapsed onto the couch, hair damp with sweat. Miss Granville sat beside her, a glass of lemonade in hand. "You're improving so fast," her mother remarked. "I didn't realize you had such athletic potential." Karina took the glass and sipped. "I didn't either," she admitted. "I'm doing routines I never imagined I'd be capable of. Janelle says if I keep practicing, I could be on par with any senior cheerleader next year, maybe even one of the best on the squad." Miss Granville's eyes twinkled. "Good enough to rival Mariana Huntsworth." Karina gave a small, determined nod. "I'm counting on it." They shared a conspiratorial smile. For a moment, Karina felt a rush of triumph. She could picture the first pep rally of the new school year, the spotlight falling on her, overshadowing Mariana's arrogant grin. Then, reality tugged her back. She couldn't forget the academic side. Mariana was rumored to be devouring advanced reading lists all summer. Determined to keep her title as the top student, Karina would need to exceed that. She had to match Mariana in grades, if not surpass her. "Mom," Karina ventured, "I'm thinking I might need to start advanced study sessions. Maybe sign up for a college prep course so I can stay ahead academically." Ms. Granville nodded. "Good plan. We can enroll you in an online summer program, and we'll keep your identity consistent." Karina Michelle Granville, a new senior who recently moved in with me while her parents are traveling. That way, no official records tie back to Jace. The school administration has already agreed to Ms. Bramble's idea in hush-hush fashion, as long as the finances are covered. The staff wants to see Mariana taken down a peg. More people are on your side than you might think. Karina set the lemonade aside, feeling a swirl of relief. It was good to know the teachers were supportive. She was forging ahead, step by step. And with each day that passed, she felt less like an imposter and more like Karina Michelle, the girl who deserved her place in the world just as much as any other. Midway through the summer, word trickled back from various classmates that Mariana Huntsworth was sniffing around for info on the new girl. She'd learned that Karina Granville was rumored to be an academic powerhouse. It made her uneasy, apparently, and she was pressing people for details. Where had Karina come from? Did she have any ties to the local schools? Why hadn't Mariana met her father or mother in the usual high society circles? "She's not used to competition," Janelle remarked smugly to Karina one afternoon as they lounged on the back porch. "Mariana's so used to being queen bee that the idea of another girl stepping into her realm is driving her nuts." Karina took a long sip of iced tea. "She'll probably try to find out my real identity or dig up dirt. We have to stay consistent." Janelle bumped Karina's shoulder with a grin. "Don't worry, we've got your back. It helps that your mother is known as Miss Granville around the neighborhood. People accept your presence in her house easily enough." Karina nodded, still cautious. Mariana was manipulative, cunning, and well-funded by her father. If she wanted to investigate Karina, she could. But there was one saving grace. Most folks in the school administration quietly despised the Huntsworth arrogance. They weren't going to help Mariana dig up any secrets. And for now, Karina's old identity, Jace, was taking a back seat. As August approached, Karina's relationship with Mark deepened. They went on more dates, whether to the beach or small diners, or just walking by the lake. Mark confessed he'd been burned by Mariana's bullying in the past. She once trampled on his reputation by spreading rumors. Karina comforted him, sharing her own frustrations with Mariana, carefully omitting that she had once been Jace. Through it all, Karina felt a poignant tug. She wished she could be completely honest with Mark, but she feared the fallout. One night, after a trip to a drive-in movie, Mark parked the car under an old oak tree. The moon shone through the windshield. He turned to Karina, his voice thick with emotion. "I know you might go back to your family someday, or maybe you'll stick around. But in the short time we've had together, I've developed real feelings for you, Karina." Her heart pounded. "Mark, I feel the same way about you." I'm just worried about how complicated everything is. He took her hands in his. I don't care about complicated. I only care about us right now. They leaned closer, and he kissed her softly. Where once she might have pulled away in panic, Karina found herself melting into the moment. The lingering taste of soda on his lips, the gentle press of his fingers at the nape of her neck, it was all so bittersweet, because she wondered if it would last once her truth came out. Yet, for that moment, she savored the warmth of his affection, letting it spark through her veins. She had never felt so accepted, so wanted. At last, the school year started. Karina walked into Skyline High on the first day in a breezy pastel blouse, a stylish skirt, and low wedges. Her new ID card read Karina Michelle Granville, grade 12. Rumors had already circulated that she was a gifted student transferring in from out of state. Standing by the main entrance, Karina took a deep breath. She spotted Mariana in the distance, tall, blonde, with a posture that reeked of entitlement. Mariana's eyes flicked Karina's way, narrowing. She whispered something to her cheerleader minions, and they glided off with snide smirks. Janelle appeared at Karina's side, linking arms, ready for the big show. Karina's pulse thrummed in her temples, as I'll ever be. Kara bounded up, giving Karina a quick pep talk. You've got this, girl. Let's find your locker, then your homeroom. After that, I'll see you at lunch. You're going to ace everything. Karina nodded. She had to hold on to that confidence. Everywhere she went, new faces glanced curiously, but no one challenged her. In classes, teachers welcomed Miss Granville, acknowledging the quiet tip-off from Miss Bramble. Mariana glowered from across the room in honest English, but Karina forced herself to smile politely, as though unaware of Mariana's hostility. During the first pep rally of the year, Karina officially tried out for the cheer squad in front of the new coach and the entire team, including Mariana. The routine demanded tumbling passes and stunts with total precision. Karina's heart hammered. Her time practicing all summer came to fruition. She nailed a complex back handspring and landed in a split, prompting a round of gasps. When the coach announced that Karina had earned a place on the squad, Mariana's face looked stormy. Even more shocking to Mariana was the subsequent vote from the rest of the cheerleaders. They elected Karina to be the lead choreographer for a special routine. Mariana's eyes practically shot sparks. She stalked off to the locker room with her minions in tow, leaving Karina in stunned delight. Fantastic job, Janelle said, hugging her. That's step one. You've just proven you can outshine Mariana at cheerleading. Karina's cheeks burned with triumph. A part of her worried that now she was in deeper trouble. Mariana would not let this slide, but Karina recalled Mark's gentle encouragement. For the first time, she welcomed the challenge. Mariana wanted war, she would get one. Then came the first round of major tests in their advanced classes: English, chemistry, calculus, and more. Karina studied tirelessly, fueled by months of preparation. When test results posted on the classroom board, Karina's eyes flicked over them, searching. She had the top score, a 98. Mariana's was a close second at 97. A hush fell over the group of students milling around the board. Mariana fixed a deadly stare on Karina, who simply forced a polite smile. The star student, dethroned by a new arrival, it was the ultimate blow to Mariana's ego. Murmurs rippled through the halls. Word spread that Mariana Huntsworth, unstoppable for years, had finally met her match in Karina Granville. The tension grew thick as Mariana redoubled her own studies, trying to best Karina on the next test. Sometimes she would corner the teachers, demanding extra credit or clarifications. None of it worked. Karina's discipline matched Mariana's natural brilliance, and the two found themselves locked in a close academic battle. Meanwhile, Karina and Mark's relationship was blossoming in the background. They texted constantly, ate lunch together, and attended each other's clubs. Mark's protective side flared whenever Mariana tried to cause trouble, but Karina often calmed him. She insisted she could handle Mariana's barbs. And oh, how Mariana tried to rattle her rival. She spread rumors that Karina was from a questionable background, that she might be forging her transcripts, or that she was after Mark's money. Yet Karina's unassuming sweetness and consistent excellence dispelled the whispers. The tipping point came at a pep rally before the big fall game. Karina led the cheer squad in a routine so synchronized and energetic that the crowd roared. Mariana, fuming, lost track of one pivot, stumbling in the middle of a stunt. Photos circulated on social media, capturing Mariana with an outraged expression, while Karina soared high in a flawless basket toss. The scoreboard was official. Karina was outshining the queen in every domain. Months slid by in a whirlwind. Karina's popularity soared. The teachers praised her academic performance. She balanced cheerleading commitments with advanced coursework, drawing admiration from her classmates. Janelle and Kara teased that Karina was well on her way to becoming prom queen in the spring, an honor Mariana had already assumed would be hers. By the time spring actually arrived, Mariana's anger had simmered into bitterness. No matter how hard she tried, Karina seemed unstoppable. People whispered that Mariana had become a recluse, rarely socializing outside her usual circle. Even from a distance, Karina could sense the tension. Eventually, the senior prom approached a glamorous night at a local ballroom. Karina had spent the year building a cherished romance with Mark and a cherished friendship with Janelle, Kara, and Shane. She had soared above and beyond academically. Prom was the final milestone before graduation. When the night arrived, Karina dressed in a sleek black satin gown that hugged her waist and flared at the hips. She took extra care with her hair, curling it into loose ringlets. Mark picked her up in a classic rental car, wearing a matching black tux. They arrived at the ballroom to find a swirl of excited seniors, all dancing under glittering chandeliers. During the announcement for the senior prom court, Karina's heart thundered. This was the ultimate symbol of popularity. The principal took the mic, calling out the candidates. Mariana Huntsworth and Karina Granville were both in the running, of course. The tension on Mariana's face was palpable. Finally, the principal declared, "The prom queen is Karina Granville." Cheers erupted. Janelle, Kara, and other friends rushed forward, squealing in delight. Mark took Karina's hand, guiding her onto the stage where she was crowned with a sparkling tiara. She spotted Mariana off to one side, her lips pressed in a tight line. The dethroned queen stared for a moment, then turned and disappeared into the crowd. Karina held her tiara in place, tears threatening to spill. She had done it. She had matched Mariana in grades and outshone her in cheerleading, and now she was literally crowned the queen of the event. A swirl of emotion filled her: pride, relief, gratitude, and even a bit of sadness for Mariana, who had never learned to be humble. Mark guided Karina off the stage. They shared a private moment on the dance floor, swaying gently while the music enveloped them. The night felt dreamlike. Karina closed her eyes, resting her head against Mark's shoulder. Whatever the future held, this moment belonged to her triumph as Karina. Graduation came soon after. Karina was named valedictorian, giving the speech on commencement day. As she stood at the podium in her cap and gown, the crowd hush fell. Mariana sat among the graduates, stiff and unsmiling. Karina delivered a heartfelt address about resilience, courage, and the importance of empathy. When she finished, thunderous applause swept the field. Later, after everyone had tossed their caps in celebration, Karina spotted Mariana lingering alone. The once reigning queen looked uncertain and lost. Karina hesitated, then approached her. Mariana stiffened, eyes darting away. "Come to gloat?" she asked icily. Karina mustered a gentle smile. "No, I just wanted to say, good luck. Wherever you go next, you can choose a different path if you want. You're bright, Mariana. You can accomplish anything if you stop trying to trample people." Mariana's face flickered with a range of emotions: anger, sorrow, maybe regret. She said nothing, merely turning away, but Karina could sense the storm within her. The rumor later was that Mariana's father was sending her to a Swiss finishing school, hoping she'd regain her lost prestige. Karina wished her well, in a quiet, unspoken way. Later that night, Miss Granville threw a small graduation party at their home, attended by close friends. Mark stayed by Karina's side, arms draped protectively around her. Janelle and Kara teased them mercilessly, but it was all in good fun. Shane joked that he still half expected Jace to walk in, as if the entire year were a dream. Karina laughed, feeling a surge of affection. She knew a decision lay ahead, whether she would remain Karina beyond high school. The experiences of the year cheering, forging deep friendships, blossoming in romance had changed her in ways she couldn't have predicted. Standing by Mark's side, she realized that Karina had grown far beyond the original plan to dethrone Mariana. The lines between disguise and reality blurred each time her heart sewed at Mark's smile. Taking Mark's hand, she stepped into the warm glow of the future, uncertain but hopeful. Against all odds, she'd claimed a place for herself. And no matter what name or identity she carried from that day onward, she would do so with pride, courage, and a fierce love that burned away any shadows of doubt. The spoiled princess had fallen, and the quiet scholar who became a radiant cheerleader stood tall in the spotlight. Perhaps that was all the victory Karina would ever need.